Okay. Abani Ghani, everyone. This is Professor Alman Rob, Professor Emeritus, California State University of Long Beach, former city councilman for the city of Compton, former Compton College Board of Trustees, and former Compton Unified School District Board of Trustees. We want to welcome you to the Conscious Corner on the platform of the Community Education Network. And we just welcome each and every one of you that have zoomed in for this historical discussion that we're going to partake in. We want to welcome each of the people that are here, and we're going to give everyone an opportunity to make comment. We just is happy to get this started. This is going to be going on all Black History Month because it's too much in to do in one session. So we have already dealt with 68, 69, and 69 and 70. We may revisit it because some of the people may come on and may want to mention that. And it entails not only the Black student movement at Cal State Long Beach, but it also embodies the Black community, Long Beach City community, Black movement and historical activities, as well as the influence of the Black Power movement during the 60s that infused all this. There were two liberation movements, civil rights and a Black Power. And that influenced the Black culture movement, the Black student movement, the Black Renaissance, the Black History Month. All of that came out of the struggles in the 60s. So, but the other issue is, many people say that the young people don't know their history and that's their problem, but we don't tell them. Just like many of our parents who came out the South, they wouldn't talk about their experiences in the South to us. You know, they didn't want to. And a lot of the students that of the Cal State and Army, they're a different generation, hip hop and all of that. But at the same time, they think Black studies was always there. They think EOP was always there. They think all these programs that we had, there was no struggle for them. They think all the Black faculty that they have there was always there, which is not true. And anyone that attended Long Beach in the early 60s and was a part of those struggles of bringing those programs forward and to keep Black studies on campus, you know, and to, as Brother Fareed would say, we turned it into a Black HBCU. And as Ijau would say, we call, and Tybee would call it Jama to Black family. We did a lot in a short time in regards of not only campus activities, but off-campus activities with regards to the Ron Settle case, even and the Roland Peterson case, and a number of other cases, Tony Wilkins in the 60s. And we participated in all those demonstrations for justice, and we won a lot of them. So it's a beautiful thing to revisit it and try to document it through this video, which we hope to transcribe and put it so that young people will understand that the BSU and the Black Studies Student Association were key instruments in maintaining a sense of Black, as Rose would say, Black consciousness. And we have coined the term Black Consciousness Conference when we had went to the State of the Race in Castlemont High School in Oakland. On the way back, we said, we're going to put on a conference. And that's, and then all the people that played a major part to keep it going and to develop the concept and the perspective. And even going back to 76, and when they started the first Black graduation at Cal State Long Beach, that was a historical event. And they were student driven then. Now, you know, the administration takes it over and it's like Negro studies. And now that Black studies become more academic focused and intellectual scholars, it's not as student friendly or well, I wouldn't say not student friendly, but it's not a student driven. When we were there, the students had a major role in every aspect of Black opportunities for Black people. May it be getting funds for the cultural events. May it be demanding justice for faculty members who they were trying to get rid of, from Walter Reed to Lewis Preston to financial aid people that became a part, Brother Sidney. I mean, we paved the way for all of that. So we're going to go ahead and get started with some commentary from people. It doesn't matter if you were there in the 70s. I mean, this is really started from 70 to 75. It don't matter if you attended then, but you can talk about the year you were there. We'll edit it and put it in the right category later if you have comments to make. So, wow, I don't even know who to start with because there's so many great people on with me that were leaders in these movements. I mean, when you look at Rose, and you look at Ijau, you look at Brother Fareed, you look at Danny. But we'll start with Danny. Danny, you were very instrumental in the 80s.
Brother Dr. Rahh, I was trying to say that I was muted, beauty before age, when you talked about getting started.
Right.
But I don't want to put that on Rosemarie, but I'm gonna put it on GYE because he's got the age on all of us on this call. So let's start with the senior of the seniors of us.
Okay.
Gregory Young.
All right, G. Is he there?
He has to unmute, Rob.
He has to unmute. Who's muted?
You're muted, GYE.
You were just talking.
Okay, so I was muted by the moderator, but now I was able to unmute myself. So, you know, it's kind of interesting. I feel like the least among, you know, the greats. When I came to Long Beach State, it was Long Beach State. It was Cal State Long Beach. It was not even Cal State University Long Beach. And while I was there, then the status changed to university status. Even as a guy that was socially involved more than involved with the BSU, because of my, I guess you could say my friendly spirit, it kind of kept me at the forefront of what was going on. And I remember the trips to Soledad prison. I remember the concerns with what was going on with Soledad brothers. And with me being more socially involved, my concern was more of kind of letting that spirit of love that was in me out. And it was kind of awkward because I was not apprehensive about expressing how much I loved my brothers, and I would express with verbal confidence that I actually loved the men. And it was a little different because we were not so much dealing with any homophobia during those times. It was just odd for a man to openly express how much he loved his fellow man. And that's pretty much probably what I kind of brought to the environment. I was somebody that was a confidant to a lot of women. I went pretty much all my time without a girlfriend at Long Beach State. So I was like a third wheel and a fifth wheel. But I was definitely involved with the hearts and spirits of the men and women of my time, and had a lot of influence.
What year were you there?
I was there from 71. I came in January of 71. Matter of fact, I was welcomed with the earthquake. You know, actually, it was on my birthday, February 8th. 1971, there was an earthquake, and we were in the off-campus dorms. But so I was there from 71 I withdrew from school in 73, in May of 73. I was too involved with everybody's success other than my own. I was an excellent writer. I would write papers for friends. You was going to get a B or an A, but I wouldn't take care of my own business. So I withdrew from school because I was going nowhere fast. All right. So that's my take. You know, that was my my beginning. So I'm pretty much all ears.
But Greg, weren't you there with the Roland Peterson case?
Myself and Roland Peterson, we pledged Kappa. I was the show you what kind of internal influence I had. I was the leader of 21 men that pledged Kappa. So our Kappa scrollers line was the resurgence of the Black Greek.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you wanted me to pause. Our pledge line was the resurgence of Black Greek involvement, probably on the West Coast. That's how influential 21 men were. And in my case, I was what's called a dog master. I was the leader. Plus, I was voted as the Western Province Junior Vice Pole Mark. So I had the kind of influence with the whole Western Province that I was a very well-liked young man. And plus, I was a party stopper until Dr. Tabor came on the scene. He was best dancer probably on the West Coast. At by the time he came.
We'll talk about that later.
All right, but nonetheless, when I was there, I was very close with Roland Peterson. I was at the apartment where the police, shot Roland. They shot Roland in the head. Roland was
back.
No.
Back of the head.
Yeah, back of the head.
He was running.
Yeah, was running. And 3 guys were in that apartment. Roland, David Handy, and Larry Garrett. And the fear that faced those men, Larry Garrett jumped straight down 3 stories from that. They were on the 3rd floor. And David hung 1 level, caught the next, him and Roland. David ran underneath him and Larry Garrett, known as Tex. Roland ran in the open, takes a .44 Magnum on the left side of his temple in the back.
Dennis Dershaw was a police officer.
Yeah. So that really just kind of tore our hearts open, and it changed the dynamics. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna be quiet. What happened from that, Dr. Rahh, what you said about back then, the students pretty much ran the school. The Kappas had the ASU student body president, the first Black president in 25 years, Wallace Hamilton, and the ASU student body treasurer, Alan Wharton. And we got our, pretty much, I would say we were inspired by Mayor Bradley, who was a Kappa, running for mayor. And we were organizers, okay? And again, by the time I got there, the BSU was already in full effect. So I was on the back end, but I remember Brother Emory over the Emory Evans, and I was in his class. But our impact as young men and the women, we use, certain parts of speech to describe things that were outstanding. And so we use what's traditionally a negative, but we had some of the baddest Black women in the state, right at Long Beach State. The only other school that ran a close second to us was San Jose State.
Well, okay.
But anyway, that's my input. And
yeah, but the Roland Peterson case was a big case. The Kappas came to my office because I was chair of Black Studies, administrator of Black Studies at that time. And that's when we organized rallies and demonstrations on the campus. And as a matter of fact, we made them pay for a delegation to go to his funeral up north. And we were strong and we were fearless in that demonstration. There's a lot of 49er newspapers about that case because it reached into the community, and community people even came and challenged the police department at that time. And as a matter of fact, it was us that made the police department change its policies or publicize its policy that you're not supposed to shoot fleeing suspects. We had 10 demands, just like we did with Ron Settle. But that really galvanized all students, the death of Roland Peterson, as far as a brutality of murder in 71, 72, I can't remember what year. But I know that we were strong.
1972.
Yeah, and
October 18th, 1972.
Yeah, I know that was a part that unified the campus and demonstrated our strength on campus as well as into the community. The Roland Peterson case was that was one of the first big rallies that we had. We demonstrated for Tony Wilkins, but it wasn't as strong as it was for Roland. And that's due to the campus, the sororities, and all the Black people at that time. But thanks, Greg, for that commentary. So we're going to let Sister Rose just tell us about her experience there at Cal State Long Beach and how she saw the movement, the emergence of the Black Consciousness Conference, the strength of the Black Studies Student Association, and the years that she was there, because she was one of the most influential persons as far as recruiting students to be conscious. I mean, she was hemming them up strong in them days. So go ahead, Rose. Dr. Allen, I'm sorry. Rosemary Allen. She's only got a doctorate. She's run one of the biggest nonprofits in Denver, dealing with school truancy and suspensions. She speaks all over the country now. And she ain't not lost 1 ounce of Black consciousness. Go ahead, Dr. Allen.
Thank you so much for the kind words. I came to Cal State the January of 1977. I actually started at Chico State. Beats and Salo and I were there together. That first Monday morning of classes, we came over at the same time. My cousin, Felton Williams, helped me to get in. And from the time I stepped foot on campus, I found my place. I joined the BSU. And the people who took me under their wings at that time was Danifu, Irvin, Bobby Johnson. They said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Danifu assigned me to his wife, Rashida, taught me all the ropes, and the rest of that is really history. We just came in strong. We had our BSU office, and that was the place where we hung out in between classes. Anytime you needed something, we kept people fed and fueled and inspired through bake sales. Fareed, do you remember those bake sales, selling the donuts or whatever else we could sell? We also, I took a couple of notes, in 1978, after the Honorable Elijah Muhammad died, we partnered with Minister Farrakhan to rebuild the Nation of Islam. And in that, we also interacted with and collaborated with who was then Dr. Rashideen, who then became Malik Muhammad, I believe. Right? Yes. And under the leadership of you, Amin Ra, we just began to address racial inequities, racism at every level. I think we kept Hard Fact Hill busy with all of our speeches and demands. And I was trying to find some pictures. Next week, I'll have some for you. We crashed into the VP or the dean's office demanding rights for Black students. We were very instrumental in the protest against the killing of Ron Settles. Freddie Jet was running the EOP program. Barry Thomas and Fareed and the rest of us, we got Black people on campus. Ijau, all of us. And it's so amazing that we became such a fierce family because not only were we fighting on behalf of all Black students and Black people and the Black community, what we didn't know as teenagers back then was the community that we were building together. Because here we are all these years later, still close like brothers and sisters. I became the president of the BSU um, with Jerry Davis as vice president. And then that next term, he became president. And we were able to just do a whole lot of good work. We partnered very closely with the Black Panther Party, the Compton Black Panther Party through Bobby Johnson. We traveled. First time I ever rode on an airplane was, yeah, Honor still teases me because I screamed when we hit some turbulence. I lost my mind. But we traveled and spread the word. And then in 1991, I had graduated by then, but we reconvened with the current leaders to really protest the killing of Latasha Harlins. So our work didn't just stop while we were students, but it continued and still continues to this day. I have to say that the seeds that we planted were manifested in our children. My children are social justice warriors. They are kick ass warriors. They do not play. My son is graduating law school in May and just interviewed with ACLU, ready to take on all the craziness we're facing. So what we did then is manifested in every generation after that. Oh, and the Black Consciousness Conference. I'll never forget. Here we are in 1979, 1978, and talking about we had to prepare for the 80s. And I remember when we coined that term, Black Consciousness Conference, preparing for the 80s, and just bringing in all the speakers from Queen Mother Moy, Dr. Yosef Ben Yakanan. I mean, we can just go on and on and on. Kwame Ture, just too much to name, although I found my daily calendar and the names in there were just amazing. The organizations, Black Books Bulletin, Rahh, you made sure we all had subscriptions to it. You made sure that we were reading that stuff. It was just incredible.
Yeah, but Rose, you being modest, you helped start the Black United Front in LA.
That's right.
We went to those meetings every Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever it was, and you were instrumental in starting the Black Black Los Angeles chapter of the Black United. It took us a year and a half to write the Constitution because there was so much division, and we just worked and worked and worked. But it was a beautiful thing that got started with regards to that. And second, that you're very instrumental with the Black Studies Student Association, in which you galvanized students. One thing you did at that time, you galvanized all the Black groups and put them under one umbrella: the Black Psychology, the National Society of Black Engineers, all the sororities, fraternities, all helped with the first Black Consciousness Conference.
Yes.
Fraternity, sorority, it was a deep unity. Everything was free. We had booths. We filled that auditorium, and it was just a beautiful thing. But not only that, you, along with the others, Barry and everybody, we had strong Black History Month programs, in which we would bring speakers and have programs all month long. And so there was a very strong role that the BSU, Black Studies Student Association, Black Psychology Association, all of them was under that one umbrella. And a lot was accomplished with regards to recruiting students, and with Don Duran and Freddie OVOP required students to take Black Studies classes as freshmen, and that helped our enrollment a lot.
Yeah.
So you played a major role in all of that, bro. Brother, we're gonna go with Danny and the role of BayPAC that you organized and ran your first campaign for city council with Black students from Cal State Longman. Go ahead, Danny.
My first council campaign was a takeoff from all the work we did as undergraduates at Cal State University Long Beach. I came to Long Beach in September of '72. And within that first month and a half, after telling the Brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi that I was interested in pledging and they telling me they didn't pledge no freshmen, I went and got involved with the BSU because I'd come from an environment of working on our positive being and self-determination in a space that when we got there, it was welcoming and social, but the academic side of it was a challenge. And we really needed to figure out how we as Black students could make the institution that we were in see us as qualified candidates for completion, for graduation, for as exceptional students. I remember sitting in my first psychology class and the professor, an East Indian gentleman, comfortably explained that he had never given a political science class, pardon me. He had never given a Black student a grade higher than a C in a class. And I had, just happened to have two white kids who had gone to high school with me in the same class. One of them stood up and said, well, you're going to give this Black guy a grade higher than that because he's been in politics all his life. And from that experience there, that professor and I had dueling conversations in front of all the students in that political science class for the rest of the semester. I ended up taking the course by examination, so that you didn't have to worry about him being influential in my grades. But I wanted to take us all the way back because when I started there and got involved with the BSU, there was a little bit of friction between brothers and sisters in the BSU and brothers and sisters in the Black Greek organizations. And there was this challenge of how could you be a Black Greek? The level of consciousness about the history and origins of who Greek society and Greek theology and psychology didn't exist, wasn't readily available to the students. And over that period of time, many of us, Ijau and Doug Roddy and many brothers and sisters pledged in different fraternities and sororities, but we stayed active and in a relationship with the BSU to demonstrate that we could be in these other organizations, but at the heart, we were conscious of what we wanted to do and who we were as Black people. And then as, we talk about when Roland Peterson was killed, the organizing that occurred, but the real synergy was that we came together as students, as Black men and women, young men and women on a college campus, and recognized that there were few of us in the large scheme, because there were 36,000 students total at Long Beach, but there were only about 1,200 of us on the campus at the time. And so I worked in EOP, and one of the things we did with Freddie Jeff's leadership and others was to say, we're going to increase the number of Black students. So we had contact in the admissions office, contact in the financial aids office, and I physically go out to a high school, talk to high school students, meet with their counselor, and from their counselor's office, call back to the campus, call Freddie, call folks in financial aid and say, I've got a promising student, here's their grade point average, here's where they're going to high school, and we could get conditional admits right then. So by the end of the second semester, 2 semesters in, we had 3,600 Black students on the campus. We were larger in population than all but 2 of the historically Black colleges in the country. And Long Beach State, the dynamic began to change and our influence on the campus changed. ASU was going to raise the student fees. And we organized with the Asian students, with the Indian students, and demonstrated before the ASU to say, no, you're not going to raise the student fees unless you're going to partition out those funds and dedicate them to the needs of our organizations and shut it down. Right there in the campus and the lower level of the union just shut their meeting down. They ended up reallocating the funds so that we could do it. And from that, the campaign to elect Wallace Hamilton began. By the next school year, we had an African-American student body president and treasurer on the campus of Cal State University, Long Beach. It had become DYA. I started there, was still Cal State Long Beach, and it become CSU. We had the experience of the Black students leading the effort to keep the 49er open. Ronald Reagan, as governor, decided he wanted to shut it down because he didn't understand how there could be alcohol consumption on a college campus, recognizing that some of the students were under the age of drinking age. But it was the BSU, the Hispanic Student Organization, that brought us all together and said, no, we're going to keep this open because this is our socialization spot. This is our cool down spot right there next to the bookstore above the Union on the campus. It was a gathering spot next to the psychology building. So our influence was not just socially and social politically on the campus, but it was also in the community. When we had the president who had been a congressman and who had influence in Congress, recognizing that resource, we used his office to allow us to program bringing people onto the campus. So when Tom Bradley was mayor, Mervyn Donnelly was lieutenant governor, both just happened to be Kappa men, but they had not spoken in years. They had not been on the same platform in a community in Los Angeles, anywhere in years. And it was accepted that you could work with one or the other, but you could very seldom work with two. We were able to bring both of these men. And at the time, there were 7 black mayors in the state of California, and we got 6 of them onto the campus of Cal State University Long Beach all at one time, and partnered them with students who came from their areas if we could identify communities that they represented and where students had gone to high school and how they were now on our campus, to demonstrate that they still, as the mayors in their community, had a relationship to ensure that younger people had the same college opportunities the students they saw and met while they were on our campus. At that luncheon, Black History Luncheon, part of the Black History celebration, Tom Bradley and Mervyn Donnelly stood up, embraced, and agreed to begin working, put their feud down and began working. And it changed the dynamics of the politics on the Southern California scale, but throughout the state. And young Black men and women around the state became deputies in state offices and legislative offices from that acceptance and recognition that we were ready to lead. We were ready to be part of the decision process. Cal State University Long Beach was, for me, the foundation of how I built my campaign, who raised the money for me, who worked in my campaign. And to this day, I bumped into folks like the mayor of Long Beach, Rex Richardson, who said his first campaign was walking precincts for me when I ran for city council. So I know that I am a product of California State University Long Beach. I'm a product of the Black Student Union, of the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and of the Black men and women like Amin Rahh and other faculty members who helped educate us. I think back to our Black literature program. I think back to our you mentioned Hard Fact Hill, how when Farrakhan was ejected from the mosque in New York, we brought him to Cal State Long Beach to speak before an audience of hundreds of students who wanted to hear and listen and engage in conversation, and how he never forgot that. Whenever he came to California, he was in contact with some of the students he met that day. So we have a legacy to stand on. We have a recognition that we have created an opportunity for others to achieve within the framework of what we did as undergraduates on this campus. Dr. Rahh, you're muted.
You're on mute, Rahh.
Dan, you were very instrumental in a lot of the activities on campus. You were very student leader and keeping things together as far as, just being an example for students, young students that came about. Like you say, you had Don Duran and Pretty Jet over ELP, but the community activities were very instrumental. Long Beach was rich with Black historical personalities and institutions. VIP Records, P&G Fish, Coleman's Restaurant, all those things that were very, very thing that kept the aspect of the black activists together, of Long Beach Improvement League. All of that became a part of influencing the movement, because what happened was y'all unbeknowing and uncaring was risking your life, because in the 60s, the police shot students down at Kent State, Jackson State, and a number of other colleges. Shot them for demonstrating against the war and demonstrating for social justice. So that's very critical for you to understand that aspect of it, as far as the students is concerned. I'm gonna move as far as your role, Danny, as a student leader. And probably one of the most respected students on campus during your period, with your influence. We're gonna go to Brother RaSheed. Are you there, Brother RaSheed?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, my brother?
Yeah, brother, go ahead, because he was there in this. What year were you there, Sid? RaSheed?
I came spring of '71 when I came in, when I heard Gregory saying that he came in at that time. That's when I checked in, and I came in also spring of '71 along with J.P. Marsh and another brother by the name of Ronnie Foster, and we all came through the EOP program with Freddie Jett, Marie Burks, and we came in late. We were like the last to come in during the spring semester. And so we had to take an EOP class. This was coming through EOP, and most of the black EOP classes with the black professor teachers, they were filled. So they told us that we had to go over to a Chicano EOP class. I said, okay, we just went over there. So that particular class was ran by a person by the name of Angelo Bosco, and he was very, very interested, in associated students and associated students. But
RaSheed.
yes, sir.
Let me just tell everybody, you may not. That's his name. That's his
Let me.
African name. His name was Sidney
my
Lee
name
at that time.
when I was there. Yes, sir. Thank you,
Yeah,
Ron.
and he was financial aid counselor, but at the same time, him and J.P. Marsh were very instrumental. I'll be right there. Very instrumental in a lot of activities. Tell him about that. But he's the first student that graduated with a Black Studies degree from Cal State Long Beach, 1975.
Rod, that's because
the
of your
degree was
mentorship.
approved in '72, but they didn't grant it until Obatala came as chair and added a whole bunch of more requirements. We had the same requirements of sociology, but they added another chair, and he added a whole bunch of other. He had to get 45 units, where other departments you only needed 33. But RaSheed was the first to get this degree, and it's in the manual, 1975. And then I'll tell you about the second group. So go ahead, RaSheed. Now you can have it.
Well, thank you. Well, let's just to speak on that degree. There were several professors there. You being one of the top ones, and you had another professor there that you had rehired by the name of Dr. Oconee, and Dr. Oconee was an anthropologist, and I was impressed. That was the study of people, and I was studying Black studies, which is also the study of people. So I was mainly working on my anthropology degree, but I was always coming to my Black study class. I always came, and I came to class for two reasons. One, because of the knowledge, because I enjoyed receiving the knowledge. Even before I came to Cal State Long Beach, I had already read the autobiography of Malcolm. I had read Mandingo, and I had read this little green booklet by Ron Karenga. At that time, it was not Maulana, called The Quotable. I was a Marine. I was stationed at the Marine Corps base in Santa Ana, and about a year and a half earlier. So we had came up. Ron Karenga, when Martin Luther King was killed that night, we were one of three carloads that came up to LA because one of the members of our unit was with Ron Karenga when he had us, and we came up with three carloads. We were locked and loaded because we thought it was time to start shooting up the police. We came specifically to shoot police so that we could cover whatever type of revolution. We were ready for the revolution. And Ron Karenga was on radio that night. and told us that it was not the time. It was not the time. So when I came to Cal State Long Beach, I already had a consciousness because we in the Black Marines, the military, we had a consciousness. We had a Black consciousness. So being there in the EOP class and learning about the associated students and the budget that they ran, the following semesters when I met your friend, Rahh, Jeffrey Lakes. And you can talk about Jeffrey. Jeffrey was a friend of Rahh, and Jeffrey was an organizer. And Jeffrey was the one who wanted to take over the associated students long before there was the Wallace Hamilton. Jeffrey organized, he was talking to Rahh, and Rahh gave Jeffrey permission to go to all the Black City classes and talk about we're going to get involved in the associated students and we ought to vote on one particular ticket. And I shared with Jeffrey, I said, well, Jeffrey, I'm pretty good with the Chicanos because I was in the EOP class and I had met a lot of, and at the time, Mecha was real big, and it was two particular Mexican groups. It was Mecha and it was La Raza. And I had made personal friends with both of them because we would sit up on the hill and we talk about a lot of world things while we sit up on the hill, for those who know what I'm talking about. So I made a lot of friends with the Mexicans, so they allowed me, it was Professor Armando allowed me also to go into the Mexican class and let them know that we're going to take over the Associated Students, because Associated Students was ran by this white group called the Young Republicans. So we were going to go in there with a multi-ethnic slate and take over Associated Students, which Jeffrey Lakes coordinated, and that which we did. The following semester, we took the entire Associated Student body over, and Jeffrey Lakes, which was the treasurer. And so JP took over the coffee house. So that was their little coffee house. That was the place where the community, JP had changed the venue for now it was more comfortable for Black people to come in, the Black students to come in, not on from the dorms, but from the neighborhood. JP was the cousin of BB, the bass player of War. So a lot of people was coming up to this club, to the Nugget. The courses that I was taking, like I say, I enjoyed going to class. Rahh would tell you, I would come to class. I didn't miss. I wasn't going for my automatic A. No, I came to class. I enjoyed the knowledge. And I watched Rahh. I watched him how he accelerated his self academically, because when I saw him enroll at Azusa for his master's, and at that time I said, and he was striving for academic excellence. That is what I picked up from Rahh, his pursuit for academic excellence. And he became my mentor. And as we continue to go through the semesters, I became his friend, and then I became his brother. He took me over to his house for a couple of occasions. First time I ever had grits was at his house. His mama cooked grits for us for breakfast. I ain't never had grits before. Well, so I became a brother, and I tell everybody right now, I love Rahh as my brother. So I mean, I learned, not only is he my professor, my mentor, my friend, he's my brother. I respect this man. I love this man. I give him his roses now. I'm not going to wait till he die and tell everybody what I love Rahh. No, I love Rahh, and I tell him to his face. I always tell him that. So, and going for those classes and going for my anthropology classes and going for and always coming to the classes in Black Studies, I just happened to accumulate enough units so that when it came time to graduate, not only did I graduated cum laude. So that I came up on stage, and they called me in front of the School of Letters and Science and gave me a certificate of academic achievement in Black Studies. So I'm very proud, first, of my own personal achievement, but that which I had professors like Rahh, Dr. Oconee, Bonita Sims, who taught me how to write, because I didn't know anything about writing, but she taught us how, in remedial English, how to identify pronouns, verbs, adverbs, and put them together, in a complete sentence. So, and then when I went into financial aid, it came to the point where a whole lot of students, I was there for about 7 or 8 years. Then students start. I would come up with ways where I could creatively come up and get them some money when they were on academic probation. So my contribution and what I did from consciousness. I did, for the study and the pursuit of knowledge. And that knowledge, I still have that pursuit today. I have one of the largest Black Americana library or museum, everything from slave masters' whips and chains to one of the largest personal collection of little black Sambo books. I mean, everything from A through Z. You know, and the reason that I'm collecting these things because again, it is a part of our history. We did not make those things, but those things were made about us by white people, showing us in very derogatory terms. But that is again a part of our history because we had to endure, we had to struggle, and that's what we struggled through, and we're still struggling today, as we see Trump taking out critical race theory in the class, and I'm looking at, okay, look, I have to come out every time. We're going to get back there on the streets. Because black studies, you can't talk about, because I mean, critical race theory is critical. That is black studies, ethnic studies.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, I still have that same consciousness. And I still have that same train that JP and I had. But JP was also, we would get up in your face. No, we would fight. We would kick your A. We had no, and I fought the staff. I fought the staff. We would get into a fisting. Yes, indeed. I would kick their A. And I would still do it today. I have not changed. I've only gotten older, but I have not changed.
Yeah,
Amen.
brother Sidney and brother JP Marsh were veterans, and they wear their army fatigue, and they helped get other veterans organized. So we had a little mini army going, and they were very intimidating. I said that last week. They were very intimidating on campus when they walked around with the Black Studies Student Association and Jeffrey Lake Snell. And the campus knew that JP and JP Marsh and Sidney Lee liberated that campus, let them know that, you know, ain't nothing wrong with smoking weed. You know, let them know that they made it municipal way before the government, you know, and they were just strong and laid out in that grass. Nobody messed with them. And
That's the hill.
they kept
That's
us,
the hill.
they knew they bagged up the students with veterans, with training. These were combat brothers that had been through it and lived. And so they knew them. And it was very good to have a brother at RaSheed at that time and that army. Jeffrey was a veteran. All of them were ex-military people that were strong. I can't remember if Jeffrey was in the military, but he was strong in that. But RaSheed, we come back to you. Brother Norvell, is that you? Dr. Norvell?
Yes, sir, Professor, that's me.
Yeah, he's one of the originals that was there. Go ahead, Norvell, tell me your story.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I was born in 1940. So when I got to Cal State University, it was Cal State Long Beach. And I believe it was the fall of 1996 and going into 1970. I probably need to back up chronologically and say that I was a Muslim. I followed Elijah Muhammad in starting in about 1956 when I was in high school in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I didn't salute the flag, and I sat in the back, and nobody bothered me. And then in 1963, they had the draft. So they still were drafting people to go into the Army. Well, I had been in the Nation and fell out with the Nation. My friend Ronald T. was killed over there at the mosque on 57th and Broadway. And there was dissension, and brothers were saying, well, you don't need to go to college to get the devil's degrees. I said, well, listen, if the 360 degrees is ours. I want to see what this 33 that they putting out is offering. And so there was dissension, and a few of us brothers left in 1963, and I had wanted to, didn't want to play Army in the Army, so I chose the Air Force and spent 4 years there. And when I came out, I started going to Santa Monica City College. And then one of the best things that ever happened to me is I got laid off from McDonnell Douglas, where I was a jig and fixture builder, and getting ready to go up on the drawing board to be a tool design engineer or production method analyst. And that afforded me an opportunity to go to Cal State full time. And I was a TA in the industrial, I started in the technology department, and I met a brother going up and down the hill, and he said, man, you got an S degree from Trade Tech, and you've got industrial experience. You could be a teacher. Well, they were laying off engineers that had 20 years of work on the drawing boards. And so I said, well, all right. So I went to the industrial arts department and changed to industrial arts and went through their program. And because I had the industrial experience and the AS degree, I could get a job teaching in certain school districts. And so I had graduated or I was in my last year, and I had a job offer at Centennial. And so I went to work, and it was like a dungeon. It was old, the equipment was World War II and all. And then after working a week, personnel called me and said, well, we can't bring you in at the 7th year like you requested because of your industrial experience. We have to start you at first year. And I told him, well, you can take this job and shove it because I'm going to graduate school. Well, that continued as I went to graduate school. I had a chance to hang out with the professor, and I am jumping ahead of myself again. As an undergraduate, my minor was Black Studies, and my major was industrial arts. And in the industrial arts, my major was metals, and my minor was plastics. And so I was a TA. And so I had the poor boy from unemployment coming in. I had the United States Air Force giving me a check, and I was a TA in the industrial arts department in plastics and in metals. So I had 3 crumb snatchers at home that I had to feed. And so it was fortunate that I had the income coming from 3 sources. Now, at school, I, like many Black students, like I heard a brother talk about earlier, he didn't have the language skills. Well, I had learned vowel formula phonics. And, with vowel formula phonics, you can take the 26 letters of the alphabet and say 44 sounds and say 500,000 words in the English language. And so I stood up one day at the BSU meeting. We had I don't know if it was a BSU meeting, but it was at one of the big facilities, one of the labs, one huge auditorium. And so I said, and I told him that I had reading skills, but I didn't have language skills. And I would hope that someone that had those skills would work with me and work with everyone else, because I know I wasn't the only one that was weak in language. And a sister named Annette Anatol, she was from the islands and she spoke about 7 different languages. And her husband was a linguistic doctorate at USC. And she left probably in 71 to go, I think, to Cornell to get her doctorate in linguistics. But on Saturday, the sister was so together, she would, well, we worked at lunch, brought out lunch and we worked, and she helped people get their papers and stuff together. But after a person got their paper together, they were gone. I stayed with her. As long as she was there, I stayed with her because I wanted to get my skills together. And so I would go to her house and maybe 1 or 2 other people on Saturday and work with her. And it was a beautiful thing to get that help from somebody that was real sharp. Now, I got that. One of the things that happened is the first week I was at school, I was running to meetings at night. And so it came Friday, and I said, well, where are these people? When are they studying? You know, we go into meetings every night. I said, you know, I'm gonna have to cut these folks loose because I come here to get a degree. I had an AS degree when I got there. So I wanted to be gone in 2 years, in which I was able to do. And the year that I graduated, they were offering a master's degree in vocational education. Well, that was right down my alley. So I joined that program with Dr. Stanger, and Professor Rahh was one of my 3 advisors for my graduate degree. And so I finished that work in 1979 because I was teaching at Oxnard High School. And I had a little 2-cylinder coupe Honda 72, and, you know, driving in those days, I mean, some of you may not remember it, but in the 70s, they were rationing gas, and we had to buy it every other day. And so I wasn't about to go to Long Beach. But then in that master's program, I think you have 7 years to complete all the work. And so I had worked at Oxnard High School teaching machine shop, metal shop, and auto shop. And then I quit teaching there and did a network marketing business for a couple of years. And then Keith Benefield, he called me and said, how's business? And I said, well, business is okay, but what do you have in mind? And he said, well, I've got a job teaching auto shop, and the hours are from 9 a.m. to 1:10, and you can keep doing your business. Well, he was my poker playing friend. He was the principal. But and so that was a full day's work. And so I did that and worked in for that school for 10 years. And in those days, we had sabbatical leaves. And so I took a sabbatical leave and studied, looked at centenarians, what they attribute their longevity to. And had to do a video on that, and came back and worked. Now, I've stayed in contact with Professor Rahh all these years. I knew him when he was playing basketball at Cal State, and we've been doing things for a long time. And I consider him as a brother because he's in your corner when you need it. And I know that all of you on this call feel the same way as I do. And
Yes, sir.
I could rumble on, but I'm gonna.
Yes, sir.
Nick Don Norvell,
Yes,
you're
sir.
very instrumental student leader when you was on campus. People admired you and the work you were doing in your pursuit of academic excellence. And you were never was too busy to stop and help other students. That's what I remember about you. And give them advice, even though you were busy and you was running. And you're doing a lot of positive things also. We're gonna come back. We're gonna go to Darryl Grayson, diabetes. And then we'll come back a little later for you to finish and some like brother Norvell, Dr. Norvell, and because you got outstanding investments and things that you're doing now. We'll get back to that. Go ahead, brother Diabetes. You see Rose, huh?
Good evening, everyone. Habari Gani. Good to see everybody. Apologies for being late. It's on my mother's birthday. We were celebrating her birthday. And so, but I did get the text message that I need to get on over here. So here I am. I'm not sure specifically what it is, that the format of, how we're approaching the conversation. So
We're talking about your experience in Long Beach State as a student leader, rewrote the Constitution for the BSU, rewrote the preamble, created the preamble. We're one of the chief organizers of the 80s movement to save Black studies, save Dr. Maulana Karanga's job, save my job, and mobilization. Keeping the Black Consciousness Conference every year you was there, as far as putting on things. So you have a rich history, brother.
you much too kind, Brother Rahh. Appreciate that kind, introduction. Obviously, it was a team effort that made the movement continue from the earlier days. And I can just remember my first time on campus. I can remember that first year. I can remember the presidents before me, all the people who are on here now. Danny a little earlier, and then Sister Rose Kareem and Sister Majaliwa, Brother Ijau, all came before me. And when I came on campus, Brother Fareed, I can remember learning from all of these people and the Black Consciousness Conference and Farrakhan coming, and seeing everybody in the small auditorium. So I just want to give thanks and praise to everybody who came before me. But I can remember that first time coming on campus and being a little young whippersnapper, coming out of high school, winning oratory contests in high school for Black history. So I thought I was all that. I thought I knew everything there was to know. But coming at it from the standpoint of civil rights movement and the NAACP and the Urban League. And I can just remember going to get my classes and meeting Barry in EOP, meeting Freddie Jett and Jesse Powell and the whole team that we had in place at Long Beach State. And that's what we always have to remember, I think, is from an institutional standpoint, we were unmatched in terms of our Blackness on campus. And so I just want to lay the foundation of appreciation, how I came in and learned. And I went to that first class, that first Black Studies class, and it was Maulana's class. So my first introduction to Black Studies at Long Beach State was from Dr. Karanga, Black Studies 110. And I can just remember one day I came in there with an NAACP shirt on, and he was teaching history. And and after class, and I was involved in the youth movement. And after class, I asked him, well, what do because he's giving a whole rundown about the Black Power movement, the whole contributions from African civilizations, Ghana and Mali and Songhai and so forth. And I said, what do you think about the NAACP? And he said, well, the young brother, they did a lot of work in the legal field. So he was being kind from his perspective and giving, certainly appreciation to the NAACP, but in another way saying, well, you need to come over here and understand the other side of the movement. So I just want to say that that was kind of my first introduction to campus. And then I had the class with Rahh, and Rah's class, was packed. And so I remember coming into the class and the room was overflowing with people outside the door. I can remember going to Vern De Silva's class. Eventually, at that time, we knew him as Dr. Malik Rashidin, and we saw his evolution on campus and in the nation. And I can remember, and I just go on to cite some of the things I remember first, before I even get into what you were talking about the preamble and Constitution and so forth. I can remember in the parking lot, talking to various professors. This is beyond the classroom. And so, we'd be in there talking to Vern De Silva in Black Art. And here we are talking about, how to eat to live and the dangers of pork and, overflowing into conversations after class. Same thing with, Dr. Rashidin, of course, who we know became Minister Harold X, and Khalid Abdul Muhammad, standing in the parking lot all night. I know Ijau will remember this, talking about, his history as a Q. And, we were asking about how come he got this nice car. And he would say, look, brother, if you want to approach the brothers in the street, you got to come with something nice. It was just, just fun, just beyond just the consciousness and the education. We had relationships that allowed us to sit at the feet of legends and heroes in our community that at the time we may not have even known the significance of. And so I just, to me, coming into that foundation and that community just kind of lit a fire for me to kind of get more extensively involved in the movement. And I can remember us unifying to get Ijau elected, and me as vice president, and him as president following Majaliwa's run. And I could just remember, I can't remember what class it was, but where we used to have the BU meet. I don't know if it's Site 101 or something like that, wherever it was. But the room was just packed. And I can remember organizing the first Black Consciousness Conference I was involved in. I think it may have begun in 77 or 78. I don't remember. But I remember I was there 79, I think, was the first one I was at. One of the key things that we try to emphasize when we start talking about kind of formalizing the organization, institutionalizing things, all of these strategies came from my learnings in Black history. How do we use, and then beyond Black history, doing my own learning and reading and studying the movement, not only civil rights movement, Black Power movement, all aspects of our historical movements, but that current movement of students throughout Southern California, throughout California, and ultimately throughout the nation, and what they were doing. And so all of that happening at the same time, I think, is what made it important in my mind. And I think all of the officers in the organization's minds and the committee chairs' minds that we needed to look at as a organization that is inherently transitory by, in that we're there for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, whatever it is. We're there for a period of time, and where's the historical continuity? And we started just kind of talking about that, and how do we institutionalize this, knowing we're only going to be here for a certain period of time, and knowing that we've got to build leaders each year to follow us. And so that's when we start, thinking about the Constitution and looking what did we have in terms of the Constitution, where we had issues with it, how it could serve us better, to make it clear to bringing in new members and new leaders within the organization as to how they should move within the organization and move on campus and, actualize, what we were talking about in the meetings and make it real. And, around that same time, as everybody here certainly knows, is there were so many things that we were doing in response to things. We wanted to also do things that were proactive. Of course, we had things that we had to deal with, such as, Deron Settles killing by Signal Hill Police, which was a galvanizing moment for everybody at that time. The Black consciousness was a galvanizing moment at that time. Other, outside activities within the LA community were around police brutality, were galvanizing moments. And so students were looking for, leadership, and we're looking for ways to get involved and make a difference and have an impact. So anyway, so we got, the Constitution and then the preamble, which we're so proud of because, I had no idea at that time that people would take it and really kind of formalize it and read it at the meetings beyond us even being there. I can remember when we were gone, and at that time I was in Washington, D.C. with BET, and, Barry or Ijau or, some of the other folks would contact me and tell me that, here's the new president, and they're reading the preamble at the beginning of every meeting, and they take that very seriously, and they really appreciate you for making that contribution. So it's kind of humbling in that regard, because it was just not something we were just doing, in the moment that we thought was necessary. And some of the other things that we did, I think, at that time, is that we also formed, if you guys recall, the Black Student Organization Council. So we were really into having unity on campus, having connections to every key person of impact and every organization of impact on campus, working toward a common aim. And so whether it was trying to work with, the folks in financial aid, with Jesse Powell, working with the EOP, working with Knapp Harris and student services and Frida and scheduling, all those things that, and Ruby Lavelle in the Learning Center, where I met Michael Williams for the first time, who gave me my first internship. Man, you guys are bringing back so many memories now. But we formed the Black Student Organization Council because, we were dealing with, everybody from fraternities and sororities, the Black Cultural Program Committee, which was the financing arm through student services funding, to the National Society of Black Engineers, to the Black Studies Student Association, to the Black Science Student Association, to Black Performing Arts Student Association, to the Black Student Athletes. I mean, you're talking about being sophisticated in a college environment, of all of these organizations that were organized around their own specific common interests. And we wanted to make sure that, okay, this can't be disparate. Everybody has to be working together. And that's why we formed the Black Student Organization Council, which we really thought, okay, and this was you got, and this is just being honest, you know, some people, I'm not gonna say all people, some people were kind of a little intimidated by the BSU because they saw us as being so radical. You know, a lot of students on campus who you need to reach, you know, didn't necessarily think that way. And their parents sent them to school to get a degree, and that was it. And while you messing around with those nationalists, you know, Black Panther, the Nation of Islam, us, you know, All African People's Revolutionary Party, you know, BSU members. But we really thought the BSU really was the umbrella organization. We didn't really need another organization, but because of that, we formed the Black Student Organizational Council as a way of, you know, kind of separating ourselves, but not really separate. Same thing with the Black Cultural Program Committee. The Black Cultural Program Committee was really BSU. Around the same time, particularly around the time of the Ron Settles incident, we started, and I remember Adrienne Byers in particular was either working with the union. Yes, I think she was a writer for the union. Anyway, we were both journalism majors, and so we kind of had a lot of interest in common. And I remember her leading the movement when they wrote that cartoon in the union, you know, kind of mocking the death of Ron Settles. And that became a rallying point. I don't know if you guys recall, it's been a huge rally. You remember this, Rob? We had a huge rally in the multi-purpose room. And we was already rallying behind the Settles issue, but we had a whole nother rally just because of what, you know, the student paper had done in terms of really kind of just making a mockery of a man's death, which in our eyes was, you know, just was crazy. So we had that, you know, I mean, and around that time, and I think Professor Ross rightly mentions this, you know, that whole time, the Black, you know, Studies Department was, you know, being attacked. Dean Crowther, if you guys remember Dean Crowther, Simeon Crowther, I think his first name was Simeon, and Dean of Behavioral Sciences, which was over Black Studies. He was trying to, you know, get rid of Black Studies. And didn't think that the recommendation of the faculty that Dr. Karenga should be chair. I don't even know if it was chair the first time, or if it was just keeping him on campus, period. I think it might have been. The first thing was they were trying to not have him on campus at all before they were even talking about him being chair. And I can remember sitting down with, we had a big rally. You know, we had written articles. We had started a newsletter, so we had a way of communicating what we believed, and so we put a lot of pressure on him, and then he wanted to meet with us. So we sat down and had a meeting with him, put pressure on him, and of course we won that battle, and we were able to keep Dr. Karenga there. We were able also to you know, get more involved, because I can't remember, I got it somewhere, a whole list of demands that we had, that the students need to be involved in this in terms of having a say-so in the Black Studies Department. So we had a whole list of demands for behavioral science. So, you know, and we were at least 10% strong on campus. I don't know what it is now, maybe 3 or 4% of Black students. And, you know, coming out of the late 60s and early 70s, you know, that, you know, kind of sense of Black power movement was still in the air. And for those of whom it wasn't in the air, you know, having things like the Black Consciousness Conference and so forth brought it back for a lot of people. So anyway, so we had that battle with making sure that we were able to keep Black studies alive and active and strong. We were involved in the Black Consciousness Conference. We were, you know, Gaidi came on campus. He was involved in Black Performing Arts Association. And we had, because we had started the newsletter, we started writing. And, you know, we were also, through Adrienne again with the union, we were able to get articles into the Union newspaper, not so much the 49er, but the Union, which was more of the supposed to be the student paper. And I can remember, I just want to kind of summarize on this and you know, let somebody else kind of take the floor. But I remember doing a major research paper. And, you know, Rahh, you remember because I came to you because you were kind of the glue to tie all of the time periods together. And I was doing this article doing a history of the Black student movement, kind of on campus, using us as a model, as a microcosm of the larger Black student movement in general. But it really was about Long Beach State. What was the history of the movement? Mm-hmm. And I can just remember these kind of dividing the kind of analysis of how the student movement progressed into, if I can remember them, 4 categories. And not to say this is all each of those time periods did, but from my observation, it was the primary focus in that time period. And the first one was what we called direct confrontation. And I would read, I went to the library and I got all these old articles and campus sit-ins and takeovers and so forth that I had not known about. And much more so than what we were doing at that time. I mean, like, you know, coming in and saying, look, you guys got to get out of here. I mean, like real takeovers. And saying, unless you do Black studies or unless you do this, unless you fund this, you know, bring in more students and so forth, we're going to take over the administration building and so forth. So I can recall reading about it and talking to Rahh and other people on campus who were active during that time and learning about it. And so looked at that first period of the student movement as direct confrontation, and then looked at the second, one of them, I can't remember, one of them was educate. After COINTELPRO and destruction of the Panthers and us and so many other organizations, you know, people kind of, in my view, went into this period of what I call educational retrospection. Like, okay, what really happened here? We had this movement going, we were taking over, you know, revolution and so forth. And the movement got somewhat stifled, right? And I think that, you know, everything that I looked at during that period told me that, you know, we were learning, we were studying, you know, we were kind of assessing, you know, what we had achieved, where things have gone wrong in some instances. So I call that period educational retrospect. And then I call it the next one, I think it was experimental reconstruction. You know, and this is an interesting way of looking at it because, you know, I think that's really what happened is that we began to experiment, like, okay, now where should the movement go? You know, is it just about the Black Consciousness Conference and workshops and learn, you know, and, you know, we start working with a lot of different organizations from, and a lot of times it was whoever may have been leaders during that period may have been actively involved in certain organizations. And then the character of the student movement and the Black Student Union took on the character of that organization, whether it was the Panthers, whether it was the Nation, whether it was the All African People's Revolutionary Party when Kwame Ture came on campus and was recruiting and organizing. And I think what we kind of determined was that, okay, now we need to, as an organization, have our own independent thought and our own independent organizational structure, priorities and so forth, right? And so then we called that period intellectual self-determination. They said, okay, let's be self-determined about who the BSU is. And we work with everybody, all of these organizations and all of these leaders. I think that's what kind of led to kind of the Constitution and the preamble and that kind of thing as well. But I'm looking back at that now, even in my first 2 years, because I think I did this in my 3rd year. I'm looking at my first 2 years, and I think, was it my 3rd year or my 4th? I think my 3rd year, I was vice president, and Ijau, when I say Ijau, y'all know I mean Lionel Henson. For those of you who don't know. I think he was president in my 3rd year, and then I became president in my 4th year, 82, 83. So I'm looking back now in my first couple of years. I was still active in the organization before I was president. You know, we did so many things. You know, you'll recall we were tight with Sacramento State, San Francisco, you know, San Jose, USC, UCLA, Brother Bernard Walker from USC, Maskani Thamba, who I'm still in contact with from UCLA. I mean, we were really active beyond our own campus. Stanford, we had the big Black Studies, statewide Black Studies Conference, and formed the Black Student Statewide Alliance at Stanford. We all drove up to Stanford, you know, and had a great time there, and worked with all of the different campuses. Knowing again that, and this I think is so critical to even talking about student work, knowing soon that we would all be gone, graduating and getting into our careers and our lives, and trying to solidify some type of organizational structure and you know, value system that would guide the people who came after us. And from what I was hearing the years after we left, I think we accomplished that to some degree. Our work spawned other organizations and institutions. I can't remember the name of, like, ELIC, Experiential Learning Center or something like that, hired me. And as a part of that employment, we were to go out and recruit new students. And so I think it was Barry, myself, and some of you will remember Charles Walker, who was the president of the National Society of Black Engineers, would go. And I don't know if at this time you were teaching in Linwood yet, Professor Rahh, or not, but remember you brought us, I think you brought us to that high school. So we would go to Linwood, Centennial, you know, Compton High School and beyond Washington High School. And we give these presentations on Black history and the importance of learning and what college is about. We call it the college student orientation something. And I got a whole set of documents about that. And so we were trying to go beyond our own campus to get students involved in the campus. So, you know, we can remember bringing Gil Scott Heron on campus a few times, being close with him. That one year, some of you guys might remember that one year he came and he was late, like an hour and a half late or something, and he got lost. And you guys remember Kenny Kendall? We used to call him Which Way Kennigan after this one night. Because Kenny was supposed to go out to the front of campus and meet them and bring them back to the multi-purpose room where we were supposed to be performing, because it was so late. Nobody left. Look, I mean, the room was full. This is how, you know, this is how Gil Scott Heron heads we were. And, you know, we just sat and waited patiently. We probably gave some speeches and, you know, got the students riled up while we were waiting on Gil and the Midnight Band. And Kenny was out there in the front of campus. And I think they got there, they never saw Kenny. I think Kenny was gone for like an hour during the conference, still waiting on Gil Scott Heron. And Gil Scott Heron was at the multi-purpose room performing. And, you know, and then Gil Scott Heron made a joke about, you know, you said go down Los Coyotes, but then Los Coyotes goes diagonally and it goes this way. And we went all over. He gave a whole story about going down Los Coyotes and going the wrong way and why he was late. But anyway, I just say that on the lighter side, just to kind of show how much fun we had while we were working and building on campus and perfecting our own characters and our own commitments. And so one of the things we really emphasized, you know, in the preamble was, you know, consciousness, commitment, and capability. And how it was important for us to be conscious, have skills, be capable, skills that contributed to the movement, in addition to our own development and growth, and conscience, capability, and then obviously the commitment. And without all three, then we're no good, because you know, you can be conscious, and if you can't make a contribution to the movement, you know, what good is that consciousness? And if you're not truly committed, you're not going to use that consciousness to help to develop your people. And we should say that we are not scientists, engineers, doctors, technologists, lawyers, who happen to be Black, but Black people who are committed, who have chosen these professions, you know, to develop our people. That's a paraphrase.
Little giant.
Excellent, excellent, brother. I mean, we'll thank you and all the previous members for giving the BSU structure and putting in, without saying it, Operation Unity, unity with diversity, and unity without uniformity, to galvanize all those organizations to be in harmony. Because that was a deep vision that y'all shared, and for saving Black studies, saving faculty member jobs, and really having some of the biggest rallies on campus, disruptive rallies on campus and demonstrations. And that was just a beautiful thing that during your era, leadership and roles and Ijau and things of that nature. We had strong brothers and sisters, and we appreciate that. Where's Ijau? Is Ijau there?
I'm right here, Brother Rahh.
Right. You have any comment, brother?
Brother, I just want to say it's an honor, brother, just to be with the comrades once again. Asante Sana for just being a part of this movement, brother. We still carry it on, brother. Just the soldiers, brother. We just need to continue to reach out to the young Black men out here, brother. They lost, brother. They need our guidance and direction. And that's where my work is. My work is still continuing out here in these streets with these young Black men. They need guidance and direction. And that's what my work is, Brother Rahh. I just want
let me just say this about Ijau. Ijau was at the gas station in the community, and some young brothers tried to shoot him. And they shot him. And he survived. But he never gave up on the youth. You know, a lot of people say, I ain't, doing it. He's still working with an organization, which he's going to tell you about, working with youth. He's not running from the problem. He's trying to correct the problem and make sure other young youth don't grow up with the mentalities of the ones that tried to rob. And
not only did he not give up on him, I think he even grew stronger in his commitment. You know what I mean?
So go ahead, Ijau.
Yeah, I had to, brother. I just, I think that's what it was. It was a moment of my life that just changed my life. What don't kill you makes you stronger, and that's what happened with me. It just made me stronger in my convictions for my people. It was one of those moments. And when I was on that ground, and I got up, and my daughter was pregnant with my grandson, and I said that I'm not going to die on these streets. I'm going to live to see my grandson, and I'm going to make a difference and positively impact the lives of young people. And I got up and drove myself to the hospital, and continue to do the work of changing the lives of Black people.
Yeah, but you're very instrumental on campus also. Brother Fareed, you have a comment? We're going to close out in a minute, but I just want to say something closing before y'all leave. Go ahead, Fareed. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute, Fareed. Can you cut it off? You're still on mute. Brother Fareed? Okay. Let me just tell y'all this. Yeah.
You want Barry to say something? He's here.
Yeah. Is Barry on the phone?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Barry.
All right, first of all, this was Gunny, and I most certainly have enjoyed the conversation with my comrade, the Dramatu second family, with Brother Thaibidi and Brother Ijau in particular. Two brothers who met in college and became my lifelong brothers. Those brothers stood up with me when I got married, became the best of friends to me, my family in every sense of the word. And I have great appreciation for those brothers and sisters who preceded me coming there, because I realize I still stand on their shoulders as well. And for the part that Brother Thaibidi and Brother Danny pointing out, very, 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 very true. And the lighter side of it all is once we begin to really understand how it worked and what we needed to do, and knowing that once we left the confines of that institution, our mission was to be able to go out and still impact, the lives of our folks. And one of the things that I really did not mention that, we had formulated the Black Media Conference.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
and formulate the Black Media Conference, and part of what we were doing is inviting those different components of the Black media nationally and bring them to campus so we could develop the relationship with them. And every year, Brother Thaibidi and I, would go to the Black Journalist Conference, because by that time we had learned, to make the school pay for it. So we go and hang out in DC, but get the knowledge. And when BET was formulating and Bob then would come, invite them to the conference, we made it a point to pick those people up at the airport and take them to dinner and spend time with them so they could get to understand who we are. And it worked, because eventually Brother Thaibidi went to BET and eventually became the VP of BET. And when he got there, he brought a whole cachet of folks from Long Beach State with him, and including the first scholarship that BET gave away. He brought me down there to run it. I did it. And it was, so the experience in itself of what we learned, but understanding how important it was to stand for what's right. And even though people can tell you it's not always easy, but it ain't easy to have to suffer the indignities and injustices. So it's just, you got to stand up and fight at all costs. And we learned that. And the one thing I can say for Long Beach and Professor Rahh and De Silva and Yolanda Reed and Professor White and Dr. Hartsfield, and taking classes with Jim Wilson, and then Senator Diane Watson, all on campus. Brother College, all on campus. It's arming us with all of the knowledge to understand. Jacob Bukari, to learn how to begin to arm yourself with the knowledge, because knowledge truly was power. And then it was just about having the heart and the will and the desire to stand up and speak it and speak the truth. And to me, those were all life-changing moments. And when Thaibidi, in the crest of Long Beach State and Ijau, we name it the Black Student Union, but change it second family, added just slightly Jamatu. That stands today. And we use that all the time, because we are always going to be connected to each other. And I am forever grateful for those brothers and from what I learned from all those brothers who preceded me. And I'm thankful to Freddie Jeff and Brother Don Duran, and, for them giving me an opportunity, to be a freshman and put me in the mix of being a counselor. I didn't know nothing, but they taught it all to me. And understanding how institutional work, they taught it all to me. So by then we was able to do what we needed to do. You wanted to get in school, I could do it. We had to get you out of school, I could do it. Need to go get your money to stay in school, I could do it. And it was just basically what those brothers taught me and how it worked. And it was life-changing. And I look at all of those students that came and who came through there and through Black Studies and what we got from it. And it's immeasurable. I was just telling somebody this past weekend, the Black College Expo was at SoFi Stadium. They, took it from the convention center to the football stadium. And while people was up there, it was just all kind of Long Beach State people. All these older Long Beach State folks just strolling around with their grandkids and this. But when I walked out of there, the one thing I kept telling folks is that's Long Beach State, because the founder of the Black College Expo is Long Beach State. And took it and grew something. And for 25 years and 600,000 young people been admitted to college later. It's just unbelievable work. And I put in a lot of years, because it was important. And that organization you were talking about, we named it ICOM. It was the Institute for College Orientation and Motivation.
Right. Institute for College Orientation and Motivation. Right.
And part of that one, we wanted to recruit those students on our own to get to school, but we also was able to cultivate them while they were still in high school and found and identified those people who were leaders. And out of that program came a couple of PSU presidents, particularly Quaylen. And it was very interesting time, but we found a way to get it, how to get it funded, so we could travel wherever we had to go get our people. So we didn't have the same limitations post Baki. When they said, "Oh, we can't do this, we can't do that," y'all can't do it, but we can. And that's what we did. So it was a major deal. I'm definitely appreciative and totally enjoyed the conversation.
I think we got another brother on the line. I think
Brother RaSheed.
Yes, it's great just listening to those that I was there with as a student and then as a faculty member. And I just want to have one particular shout out to Rose. Rose, thank you so much for that one important telephone call. Thank you much. Everybody else is great hearing your voice. Stay up, stay strong. Luta continua. The struggle continues.
All right. RaSheed, is he here? He cut off.
Yeah, did you hear me?
No, go ahead, RaSheed. Make a comment, then I'm going to close out. Go ahead.
I think you're looking for Fareed, Ra.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
That was RaSheed. That was RaSheed just making a comment.
That was me.
Oh, no, I'm talking about Fareed.
I think he dropped off. I didn't see him.
Okay.
Professor Amara, can I say something real quick?
First of all, I want to thank all y'all. Is that RaSheed? Fareed? Yes.
No, Matt Moore wanted to say something.
Okay.
Oh, is Matt over here?
What's up, brother
What's up, man?
Brother Barry Thomas, brother Ijau, Jamal, two family.
My brother.
Professor Amara, I just want to say peace and blessings to you and thank you. I was there from 1977 to 1982. I ended up on academic probation. Dr. Walter Reed saved my BS. He saved me. If it wasn't for Dr. Walter Reed, I would not have graduated from Long Beach State, top of my class. But you said a comment earlier, Professor Amara, about how we were risking our lives protesting. When Ron Settlers was murdered, we did a march from Martin Luther King Park all the way to the Signal Hill police station.
Yes, we did.
Close the city down.
Till this day, I was working the security, and I was the one on the bike with a radio, the first one to enter the park. Police were on top of the roof, snipers they were prepared for a riot. And I just remember it's something that still makes me angry because throughout my life, people have asked me about Ron Settlers. So I'm still pissed off because Ron Settlers was a friend of my roommate. He came to my apartment. He played football with my roommate in college. So I got to know Ron, and his nickname was Bull. He was a good brother who was murdered, who was lynched. So again, I'm still emotional. I'm still pissed about what happened to that brother. But I've been taking notes just like I did in your class since this conversation. And I didn't know about Brother Roland Peterson. I didn't know about his story. There's things that I've heard through this conversation. I'm sitting there taking notes, but it's just good to be on this talk. And again, Jamal too, I still got the flyer from the first annual tribute to Black independent schools that we did back in 1982. Wow. And all those brothers. Wow. Yeah. But anyway,
I forgot about that too. Wow, that's so many things we did. I forgot about.
Hey, man, make a copy and put it in the chat.
I will do that.
Send it to Barry or Diabetes so we can document it.
Okay, Matt.
Yes,
Matt,
sir.
can we see that again? Can you hold it up, please? Look at that, everybody.
Wow. Does anybody still have that flyer we did that Vern Silver did for Black Media Conference with the brother with the dreads? That was a classic flyer. You guys remember that?
Yeah, I remember it.
remember it, Barry, don't
Burnell, Burnell made his transition.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, I didn't know that.
he didn't want no services or nothing.
Hmm.
But I'm in contact with his son all the time.
Oh, really?
Let me
Okay.
just say this quickly, brother and sister. First of all, I can't tell you how grateful and thankful I am for y'all to come on. And the purpose of this is to celebrate, of course, Black History Month. But struggle comes in different forms. People struggle in different ways.
Yeah.
And one way we continue to struggle is tell our story.
Right.
I mean, because people don't think there was a struggle. A lot of young cats up at the BSU, we got an institution on Ernest McBride Jr. that his father was one of the first of the Optimal Club and NAACP in Long Beach, and his nephew would help start the Black Athletic Association with me and students. Martin Veal was my roommate, and they were an institution in Long Beach. And they had a young group called YAM, Youth Action Movement, with Woodrow and a bunch of other people. All of that filtered into Long Beach State. But getting back to the point, we struggle in different ways. There are brothers out there doing their thing different ways. Rose do it through her intellectualism and writing and publications. She had books out and things. Jen J do it through her music with her kids and reggae. It's still a continuing contribution to the consciousness of our people. Diabetes wrote had a production of cartoons to reach young kids about consciousness with BET when he was starting. People still continue to struggle in different ways. They may not think they're contributing to the struggle, but it is. Some use guns, some use rhetoric, some use religion, some use this. We're using our history, and we want to document it on Zoom and play it on YouTube. Hopefully some BSUs will get the video and play it to students and let them know that they're standing on the shoulders of some great young students that went on to get doctorate degrees, went on to become lawyers, Adrian Byers and all of them, went on to be directors and things of this nature. We're going to continue this as we go on this month. Now, I want to get people to hear what y'all said, what you experienced, not somebody talking about you, but you, and know what you thought while you were a student and why you can, like, being an athlete, getting a degree. Most of the students in the BSU, we graduated more students than the athletic program 10 times as much. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing to see because we push student and education, and we use the instrument. We took over financial aid for a little while. We had Sidney Lee, Brother Powell. We had before that we had Gary Alexander in the 70s, and we had Michael Daniels in the 60s and 70s. We took over the student union with Jeffrey Lakes, and we thought that one brother was going to be a little bit more better, Doug Robinson, but I want to darken that with criticism. But the thing is that we all tied together. The Long Beach community under excellent people, Tony Wilkins and Victor Brown. Victor Brown was the first appointed president of the BSU. Then came Tony Wilkins. Along with that, BSU executive board was relentless in the 60s. They had a newspaper. They forced the bookstore to give them a store space. They had store space in the bookstore. They, I mean, they're the ones that initiated Black studies, as far as with Dr. Clyde Taylor and somebody mentioned, I think it was somebody mentioned Miss Anatol. Miss Anatol was married to one of the speech teachers.
Oh yeah, Dean Anatol, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. He went on to become provost. June Cooper, all of them got their promotions because of our struggle.
That's right. That's right.
They never would have got them positions
right.
if it wasn't
That's
for
right.
our struggle. And that struggle is connected to the total Black movement. And so we here every Tuesday and Wednesday.
You see Danny got his hand raised, Danny.
Yeah,
but
excuse
go ahead,
me.
Danny.
Pardon me. We have two people on here that we haven't heard from it. And we got Greg Dews and Mashariki Ramey.
Yeah,
That's two other
Mashariki.
people.
Just ask her to sing We Are the Our children of the future.
Good evening. I'm kind of late because I still work a job and I'm still helping my customers. I work for a Black gift company. And I'm happy to see all of us, all these faces, and talking about the things that we experienced and what it took in order to make it possible for us to have the freedom that we had. And we had a lot of freedom.
Yeah, we acted like we were free. And they saw us as free. We was a strange group of Black people that came to Long Beach State. And people go all over the country and they used to say, you must have went to Long Beach State. You know, because the students just had consciousness. Go ahead, Danny. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm sorry, my hand was raised to point out that Greg, Mashariki, and Ahi hadn't said anything, but also say I put in the chat a flyer. I'm curating a workshop on the 11th, next Tuesday evening, so I won't be able to join the conversation of African Americans in the labor movement. And here in Los Angeles County, we have an African American woman who lives in Long Beach, who is the head of the LA County Federation of Labor, a conscious sister who's trying to make it work with all of the trades, all of the unions, and it's an opportunity for me to put them in place at LA Trade Tech College where I teach. So just wanted to share it, send folks our way if you can't be on the program next week.
If it's okay for Reed, did you have a closing comment?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can you hear me? You can?
Yes.
Okay, my phone conked out on me, guys. I'm in Vegas at my brother's house. Nobody's got an iPhone, so struggle. Now I had to get in the car and get the car started and get it charged. All right, quickly, what the BDC means to me is life. And I just want to frame my comments with the word first. Prior to coming to Long Beach State, I went to high school in Inglewood, and Danny was there at the same time. He's a few days ahead of me, but he was there. And I got to tell you, as I noticed this guy, he was a leader then. He was a special young man headed in special directions then, and he went on to do those things. So he was that guy. That he's one of those guys you can see that guy's on the move. When I ended up going to Long Beach, I was surprised he was there. He kind of took me on his wing for a minute, introduced me around, brought me to different environments. And on one occasion, Danny, I think you were trying to hook me because he sent a young lady to collect me. And, I'm, trying to be social. She said, let's go to a party. I went to a party. We got there and there was nobody but Kappas there. I'm like, okay, here we go. But it was just one of those things. And he looked out for me. So I appreciate that. And it made me more comfortable in that environment. First time I stepped a foot on campus at Long Beach State was the fall of 76. So I meandered after high school for a year and a half, not doing much of anything, not having a North Star. When I got to Long Beach, first became, part of my life, from that point forward, to the extent that Richard Fareed was born at Long Beach State because of my involvement, my investment, and the returns I was getting from all those people that are, some of them are here and others in the BSU. I changed my name, but before doing that, Danifu Sayed Kareem was the guy that brought me to Long Beach State, and I got in kind of the back door. But we sat down and we talked about name change. We talked about it in a real sense. I think we went over this a week and a half before I chose the name Fareed and discovering what it meant, what origin, et cetera, et cetera. And the world has known me from 76 forward as Fareed. And I'd like to believe that came from my coming of consciousness because of my involvement with the Black Student Union, all those wonderful people. You guys are first because when I came from, it was a nice place when I came up, et cetera, et cetera. But I made a lot of bad young man choices. I was way ready to make bad choices going in the wrong direction. When I came to Long Beach, some of the first included being people like Diabetes, like Rose, like Ijau, like Barry Thomas, and all these people that kind of went upside my head. And the things they were talking about, the things they were interested in, they were first for me. I didn't think about these things. Black nationalism, Black consciousness, I didn't think of these things. It was not my pursuit, not my purview. But these young people had me in awestruck. So I started hanging around and following them around. And next thing you know, I'm using certain parts of the jargon. And here's one from that period. I have, from that point forward, continued to reshape the world in my own image and interests. We know that phrase. I take it to heart. I still do. One of the first real stark events that took place that helped change me and mold me to a different human being as a first time I saw somebody literally close to me and spoke that way and conducted himself that way was you, Dr. Rahh, who I consider my life mentor. I walked in that lecture hall and I'm saying to myself, who is this 10-foot black guy, the 3/4 black leather jacket with the Stevie Wonder long braids and the dark shades, and he just went to work, and I'm like, what is this? Never had it up front. I saw images on TV and in magazines and books, but I had that in front of me. And I sat there just awestruck, hearing things I had not heard. If the things that made sense to me, but I'd never heard because I didn't pursue these things. Dr. Ross sent me to, like a lot of other students, to Aquarian bookstore. First time I went into a black bookstore, voluntarily picked up black books by black writers. And I started reading and I started getting hungry for more and more and more, to which I started joining and becoming a part of this movement. These young, impressionable minds who I thought at the time were thought leaders. And I just wanted to soak it up. To the extent from that experience, because of who I became, I was pursuing what I thought was going to be the easiest course of study at Long Beach State. So that was English. Yeah, they gave me 4-inch books, had me write papers. I wasn't prepared for that, but it did affect me and change me and make me more vocal at a minimum, more articulate as a minimum. And when I started really picking up those books voluntarily of people with consciousness, people with nationalistic ideals and all those things, revolutionary actions, I started taking some of that insight and that knowledge into those English classes where I found myself more often than not one of 2 black students, just one of 2. And when they bring up those novels by the Ezra Pounds and the Walt Whitmans and all that, and we start talking about the subject matter, I had a different take. So those instructors remember me because I wasn't argumentative. I didn't go in there to really push down what they were selling, if you will. But I questioned a lot of it. And I questioned it from what I believe now was a black perspective, a growing black perspective on some of the subject matter. When we got to the point about Huckleberry Finn and Tom and all the rest of them, I had another whole approach and thought process. So those classes became very, very interesting to me, to which I did very well because I was fully invested. That came out of the Black Student Union. Long Beach State didn't make me or grow me in that regard. It did from an academic perspective and some of the basic tenets of academics, but the Black Student Union and people like Rose, those people, they changed me. And I'm forever grateful to them. I hold them deep in my heart and esteem, and I look at them as lifelong heroes and sheroes to me. I believe that. That's how the BSU affected me. The course that I've been on since then, the things that I've achieved are as a result of who I became during that period. I've traveled around this country. I lectured a lot on my industry, automotive self-development and business development. I've also served for a period of 9 years at Urban Financial Services Coalition, a national organization, financial literacy, financial empowerment. And I was with the marketing director for 7 years. I joined that and became that voice. I lectured on financial literacy. I lectured on home ownership when I was in the real estate industry. I did things that I would never, ever have done. In high school, I was a guy you saw, but you didn't hear much from me in high school. I came into class and sat down in the rear. I just wasn't fully invested or engaged. My mind got turned on. The on switch happened with the BSU at Long Beach State and many of the people that are on this call. That's what it means to me. And I still hold it dear.
Good.
With reverence.
Let me tell you something, RaSheed. I remember when you introduced Farrakhan.
Yes.
And when you was there.
You know how scared I was? I sat with him 3 feet from him for about 10 minutes, and we had a nice casual chat, and I'm feeling a certain way about that. And then I got a chance to introduce him, and I was shaking. But the fact that you guys empowered me to do that, allowed me to do that, you put me in places I never would have gone by myself.
Yeah, but you know, we had Jerry Davis, Michael Williams.
Yes.
And we had the workshop with Robert Staples, black, male, female relationship. Y'all introduced them in the Robin's house, and Jerry Duvall drew up the first flyer, the flyer that's behind a brother of RaSheed Maskani right there. That's Jerry Duvall's artwork. And so he's gonna be on. But I just want to tell y'all this quickly. We're gonna do this every Tuesday throughout February. Hopefully you can find time to come back. I know you're busy. We found out in this program, going back to the community, that Malcolm X spoke in Long Beach. Mother McBride brought that out. And you know, we had no idea that Malcolm ever came to Long Beach.
You know what year it was?
It was prior to 55. I'm trying to find some of the old timers around there, because I think it was like 53 or 54. Because we had a malt shop called a TKE, and like Coleman's is over on Atlantic, but Coleman didn't have that hall then, but they had a hall above the TKE. And so we hung out at the malt shop, and we just happened to come by there, man, and he was up there, and the crowd was out there, and a couple of my friends, like Herman Harp, he was Muslim, and they used to try to change us, turn us, you know, into Muslims. We sit out on the lawn, talk about it. Before, when Malcolm gave that speech up there, because I was asking my wife about it, and she don't remember the year, but she remembers because she was there. But we weren't dating anything at that time. But boy, Malcolm had everybody riled up, you know.
Yeah, that had to be like in the heat of the movement when he was recruiting for the nation, right?
Yeah.
He was
traveling around at that time,
And that's why I was saying that the Long Beach community is just as much as influential in the movement at Long Beach State College as the overall Black movement. But let me just get back to this point. I try to do this in phases. The 60, 67, when the BSU first started, and the Long Beach community, the Improvement League, and the Black House, and the culture events, and the Black press, and all that. And then I went into, I went from 67 to, we were supposed to go to 70. And then I was going to go from 70 to 75, 75 to 80. But I just say this, let everybody come, say their piece in years, because, you know, y'all got things to do and you may not can make it during that time. But next week, I'm going to try to give you a brief history, because I was a student, you know, I'm an alumni of Long Beach State, a student athlete, and give y'all some insight from my perspective also. And we're going to try to go all the way up to when Dr. Karenga came, and when we're going to try to get Beats and Salo on, but he's in Uganda right now, and I don't know if he's back yet. We'll try to get Dr. Robinson on, and try to get Maulana been on our show. I'm gonna try to get him to sum it up with how the department that went from Black Studies to Africana Studies after he took over in '89. But the key to it is that the Black institutions still exist that stayed with the Black struggle. BSUs started in '68. You know, it changed from Negro Student Union to Black Student Union, and they're still going strong in some communities. Black Studies started as a program at San Francisco State. Now you got PhDs in Black Studies. We couldn't get nobody to teach in Black Studies. None of the people that helped start it taught in it. They wanted to stay in it. They thought they were scared and they'd lose their tenure in the other department. All that struggle gonna come out. But we need to tell that history of how it's been grown to with Malefe Asante and Temple giving out PhDs, UC Berkeley, Cal State LA has a ethnic studies, school of ethnic studies. All these things came from our struggle in the beginning. And so we're going to institutionalize it so that people can borrow from it, use it, and even maybe show your kids later. There's these interviews of people that you went to college with and that you discussed this with, because this is going to be on YouTube. So I want to thank everybody for coming. Brother RaSheed.
Yes, sir.
Thank you again for all your contribution. Yeah, Rose.
I did put some links of pictures and video in the chat box from 1980. I'm hoping to go through, and maybe you can download it and add it.
All right.
And next week
I got some pictures. Some of them I got to get to RaSheed. A brother threw away a whole box of my pictures. I mean, a crate full by accident, but he still threw them away. But anyway, I still have a bunch of others of many of you and things next. So we're gonna continue this next Tuesday. Hopefully, if you got time, you can come in, and we might, if Mashariki fill up, then let her hit a note or two in her song, in her singing, and I tried to get Crystal Jackson in, and Rose, you can do that.
Do you have the videos also, Rahh?
Who?
You still have all your videos?
I have a lot of them. You know,
you've never gotten them digitized, have you?
No, but
you need to get them digitized.
Okay, I bought a machine to digitize them, and my son was supposed to help me, but he travels so much he ain't had time to help me.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna try to gather all those videos, and anybody want to help me digitize them, we can digitize them. But I'll bring that up next week too, because I have a lot of pictures, a lot of videos, the old videos.
Yeah, I probably would contract that out. I got services that can do that so easier.
Yeah. Well, I had a couple of our basketball games digitized. They charged too much. That's why I bought the machine. But it was film. But we're gonna continue the struggle, continue teaching. And I tried to get Evelyn Knight from Long Beach City and Dee Andrews and a few other people on. And we're just gonna continue this throughout Black History Month. And hopefully y'all will join us. Brother Rashaki, would you go ahead and close us out?
Yes, sir. It is great for us to be together to continue. The struggle is in our mind first. And as long as we are conscious of who we are and what we are doing, then it will emanate from us. Each one teach one. Remember who we are and where we are to go. We go forward. We go forward. Aluta continua.
That's what we used to say. Forward something, not backwards never. Forward
ever, backward never.
Yeah, go ahead, Maskani. Close us out.
Are you talking to me?
Maskani. Rashaki Maskani.
Yeah, I was getting all of these links from Rosemarie. So I just put those. I got all of that now. So hopefully I know I tried to pull up the first one, but it didn't come up yet. But hopefully I can get everything. But I appreciate everyone being here this evening. Excellent, rich history, and it's a beautiful thing. So tomorrow we have a brother coming on Let me show everybody, just in case you want to show up. I'm gonna share the screen. Okay, we got Brother Kuumba coming on, and he's gonna talk about we can't take another 25 years of mass media disrespect. So that should be an excellent show. He's been on many times, and we're gonna enjoy his commentary, and he's a very serious brother in the struggle. So that's what's going on tomorrow, and we'll be back next week also. Go ahead.
And let me tell you about Brother Kuumba. He's like you, Brother Darryl. He dissect rap music and talk about the vulgarity that they're playing to our children that we don't even know with earphones. And he's in a movement to try to educate parents to what their kids are really listening to. And he does a great job of that. He's out of Chicago. Strong brother. Matter of fact, he's Geronimo Pratt's nephew, if I'm not mistaken, and Jijaga. And so if you haven't ever heard this brother, if you get a chance tomorrow, he's going to be strong. He's deep into the media, and he's really critical. Like we used to have demonstrations about crack babies. They used to put on the radio and demonstrations about them criticizing us and stuff. So he's into that. So I hope you can come on tomorrow. Go ahead, Maskani.
All right. So each one teach one in Conscious Corner. Everybody have a great rest of the evening.
And Greg, it's good to hear you. See you. You got the light real dark. I couldn't see you, but everything's okay, brother. That is RaSheed's brother, Drew Greg Lee. And he's a very instrumental brother in this struggle, in this consciousness too. And hopefully you come back next week when we get a chance to let you say some words, brother. All right. Go ahead, Ross. We closing out. Because see, let me tell you something. Some of you brothers